Is there anyone else who'd like to come up? Mayor?
Thanks, Mr. President. Mr. Britton says that we should just shelve this plan because we might be able to come up with a better, more feasible plan. Ladies and gentlemen, we spent 6 years developing this plan. This committee that selected Stark Enterprises was made up of 3 people off City Council and 2 out of the administration. Debbie Ritzinger served on that, Diana Calavecchio, and Ken Barnhart. So 3 out of the 5 people that selected Stark Enterprises were City Council members. It wasn't just something that we railroaded through. It wasn't because somebody made contributions to me. I had nothing to do with the selection. I was happy for it because I had seen the work of Bob Stark. I saw that there wasn't anybody in Northeast Ohio that was better connected to all the retail entities in Northeast Ohio than Bob Stark. I don't know who out of your head could possibly you could come up with that we would start all over again. To me, that is absurd. We selected the best person. Maybe if I go back over, President Walters talked about, how did we get to where we're at or what are the delays. Maybe I could share with council briefly where we've been over the last 6 years with Stark Enterprises. And it really starts in the summer of '07. Because I routinely, one of the questions I get asked is rather than do what we did, why didn't we go back to the original owner and have him make improvements? I can't tell you how many times I met with Stuart Grains, had lunch with him, always bought his lunch. He could buy and sell me 100 times over, but I always bought his lunch. I begged him, I pleaded with him, I cajoled him. I did everything I could to encourage him after Montgomery Ward left to do something. Ladies and gentlemen, all I ever got was lip service, time and time and time again. And I can tell you the exact moment when I knew that the city didn't take an initiative, the city wasn't proactive, nothing would ever happen to that shopping center. And I'll tell you, if I hadn't, today, that shopping center would still be sitting there. Instead of 30% occupied, which it was when we filed the eminent domain action, it would probably be completely empty. And there'd be graffiti on it, and your constituents would be saying, why aren't we doing something? Well, because the law changed October 10th of 2007. The legislature, the House General Assembly, changed the law. I don't agree with what they did, but they did it nonetheless. Well, we found that out shortly after my last meeting with Stuart Grains, and I can tell you the exact moment when I knew that we had to take a proactive approach. I had lunch with Stuart Grains once again. We went out in front of Lefevre's. It was still Lefevre's then. And we're standing out front. It was a beautiful day like today, sun shining. And Stuart Grains turns to me and he says, Mayor, now the State Road Shopping Center, how do I get there from here? Folks, that was like sticking a dagger right through my heart. Because at that point in time, there wasn't anything more paramount on my mind, and I suspect on your minds as well, as to what we're going to do. But he wanted to know how we could get there. I immediately came back and started talking to Virgil Arrington. I knew there had been a lot of talk in the General Assembly about changing the legislation. We found out that the law was going to change October 10th, 2007. We filed the eminent domain action on October 9th, one day prior to the changing of the law. Had we not done that again, the shopping center would still be there because there would be no way we could force Stuart Grains to do anything. It would be very similar to what he has out in Stowe, in that Stowe-Kent shopping center, where it's just going downhill, and going downhill. As you know, we got an agreement together. We took it to City Council early in '08, and it passed unanimously to buy the shopping center. And I think Council did that with the intention that it would be redeveloped. We didn't know then for sure who it would be, but again, largely City Council made the decision to bring in Stark Enterprises. I just want to conclude by saying that there are things that have popped up over the last couple of years that we could not have anticipated, that were beyond our control. One, and it's been hinted at and alluded to, was that originally Menards was supposed to be part of Portage Crossing. Well, Stuart Grains had an original agreement with Bob Stark to sell the Pizza Hut for $275,000. It was going to be bulldozed. Menards was going to go in that space. They needed that for parking. And we were going to include Pizza Hut in Portage Crossing as a whole. when Stuart Raines found out that Menards was coming, his price went from $275,000 to $3.5 million. We could not anticipate that ahead of time. That's beyond our control. All we can do is be persistent and keep working, which we did. Now that cost us a year, but nonetheless we kept going. We didn't know that the EPA, without telling us, changed the rules regarding detention ponds, but they did. So we had to go back and redesign the whole complex to facilitate detention ponds because EPA decided in their infinite wisdom that it had to be another way other than the way we've been doing it for the last 10 to 15 years. We could not anticipate that. We didn't cause it, but we just have to deal with it when it lands in our doorstep. And finally, who would have known that when we bought BP, and by the way, we didn't buy it from BP. BP had recently sold it to Easy Energy. But when we bought it, Easy Energy had a grandfather clause that said they could put anything they wanted there, but when it reverted to us, there was a clause that said they couldn't sell, whatever went in there couldn't sell either coffee or soft drinks. Well, that eliminates a restaurant. A restaurant's going to go there. So we went back to BP. It was a perfunctory thing, but when you take something back to British Petroleum that has probably more attorneys than we have employees, you're not going to do it overnight. That was a delay. That took some time. The point I'm trying to make is things came up constantly to the point where I thought Sue was going to go down and jump off the bridge, but she was persistent, she was dogged, she was determined, and she kept going. And it's been a struggle. The economy hasn't helped. But we have been persistent, we worked hard at it, and despite what Mr. Britton says, we're going to get this thing done. Tonight, if it passes, it's going to close tomorrow, and construction will begin this week. And I got to tell you, after having been going through the neighborhood over the last month, I can tell you what's on the mind of the voters and the residents of this community. They want to get this thing started. They don't care about the minutia and all this other mumbo jumbo and all this dreaming up that, well, we can come up with a better contract. I want to know who in this room has ever put together a project of this magnitude. Is there anybody? I can't believe there is. But we have. And it's a positive. It's going to last this community for decades upon decades upon decades. And we need to get it voted on tonight. We need to get it closed tomorrow. And we need to get construction this week. Thank you.